Hello and good morning. Welcome to Monday. This is CosmoQuest and this is Community Coffee. I am your host, Gillian Rhodes. Today we are doing something a little bit different from my usual space art show for a couple of different reasons that we'll get into. One of them basically is that I didn't have a guest for this week. And last week was really busy at work, and I just didn't have time to come up with something creative or interesting enough to put on for the astronomy art show. But also because one of our other community members reached out to me and suggested that we could do kind of a special back and forth session about something that all of us really actually need to know about and to practice these days, which is quite simply wellness. It is August, it is hot. Things are going crazy. They've been going crazy for too many months, many months, and frustrations are just running high. And so we decided that it's not quite space, but this is community coffee, and community coffee is a time for the community to come together and support each other. And this is something that, Katrina, who is my guest, you know her as AstroWise. She's working in the field of wellness, and I am a dancer, which means that most of my work is contingent on me being physically and mentally fit. And so we decided that we were just going to spend some time today to talk a little about wellness and not kind of how our brains are working and putting us into the crazy, stressful states that we're in, and some things that we can do to alleviate that stress along the way. So that was kind of a long intro, but let me just say hello to Katrina. Thank you for joining me and for coming up with this idea. I think it's brilliant.
Oh, hey, Gillian, and hey, chat, and everybody. I'm so excited to do this. I couldn't sleep last night. I was so excited. I've been working in the field of massage therapy in Ontario for the last 20 years. It's regulated differently in different places, but basically in order to do what I do in this location, I have to go to school for a few years. I have to sit board exams. I'm regulated by the government, and it's, the public is very protected from the likes of me. But basically, this is what I do with people every day. Well, that I did before COVID. I've been home most of the time lately. But what I thought I would do is I wanted to actually start out with a baseline for how everyone's feeling. We're going to do something before, and then we're going to check in at the end. Because my feeling is we're going to, Gillian and I are going to talk about different things. I want to talk about why we're feeling the way we're feeling, how anxiety works a little bit, how stress works a little bit, talk a little bit about posture, talk about a few little things that we can do to make ourselves feel better. And we're going to check in with that baseline at the end. And if you feel that, if that number has changed a little at the end when you've gone through these things, then this is maybe stuff that you can work a bit more on your own. Don't feel silly doing any of these things. You're at home, no one can see you. But if maybe there's something you can take from this that will help you. That's my goal. So before we actually get into stuff, I wanted everyone just to think about how they're feeling. So as you're feeling right now, sitting, looking at the computer on a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is I'm feeling really crappy and 10 is I'm feeling really amazing. I want you, this is a very subjective number, pick a number, okay? Just pick a number and just think about what that is. We're going to come back to that at the end. So we're going to actually, I wanted to talk a little bit about, the physiology, the neurology, and then we're going to get straight into some of the self-care. Is that okay, Gillian?
That sounds like a plan. Yeah. So definitely. So one of the things that we were talking about before the show is just that there are some scientific, hard, fast reasons for why you're feeling the way you're feeling. That it's not just you and it's not just the situation. That there's things that are actually physically happening in our brains that are causing some of these feelings. Not just the feelings, but actually the physical responses to them. And so you wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, indeed. I think it's really important to realize it's not you. you know, there's a genetic and evolutionary reason for why you're feeling what you're feeling. It's all to do with the deepest, darkest parts of your brain and spinal cord, the part of the brain called, you know, some people call it the reptilian brain or the hind brain. But Paranor, if we can go to the brain slide, there's you know, things that are happening inside us when we're in a high stress state. So there's a part of our brain called the limbic system and what they call the autonomic nervous system. So the autonomic nervous system is the part of the nervous system that controls things that you don't have to think about. The beating of your heart, the digestion of your breakfast, the dilation of your pupils, like, you know, all that stuff. So basically what happens is in the autonomic nervous system, you've probably heard fight or flight bandied around quite a lot lately during COVID. Everyone's been in a really high stress state. So there's fight or flight, that's one part of the autonomic nervous system. The other part of the autonomic nervous system is what they call resting and digesting. So you've got the parasympathetic, the fight or flight, and you know, the resting and digesting is the parasympathetic. So we've got different parts of that. So the nervous system tells the adrenals what to do, which starts to tell the body to release all these hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. And so in the brain, you have the amygdala, which, so in the, you know, so you've got the brain stem. I don't think I can use my mouse. But anyway, so at the top of the spinal cord, you have the brain stem. And then above that, there's the amygdala and the hypothalamus, these two little glands that talk to each other. So when you're, you know, from an evolutionary standpoint, if you were running from a big black bear, you would need your heart to beat faster. You would need your pupils to dilate. You would need the blood to suddenly go to the muscles in your body and away from your digestive organs. And all that would need to happen in order for you to act fast and to, you know, but because of the high stress situation that we're in now, what's happening is we're still in this sympathetic state, but not for the same reasons that our, you know, human ancestors used to be in. And so, you know, it's, you know, being in this state is really exhausting. It's like if you have the adrenaline and cortisol switch turned on for long periods of time, it's a drain on the adrenals, it's really exhausting. And it's like, we have to figure out a way how to tell our brain, not running from a big black bear, let's get the parasympathetics turned on. And we do that by breathing, by doing things that make us feel happy, by, you know, trying to laugh, by exercise, by getting some sleep, by, you know, trying to, you know, so there are absolute, and, you know, meditation is another one. So there's definitely tools how to get there, but the brain is where it starts. And then if we go to the slide with the spine, the other thing I wanted to talk about is because of COVID, the other thing that's been happening is that we've been doing so much sitting lately. And so our postures have been going to heck. And so there's a lot of shoulders coming forward. And because we're sitting, you know, our hips are in flexion all the time and everything's very forward. And so yeah, I think, you know, the brain part is one part of it, but it's also the physiological part, what we're doing with our bodies.
Yeah. And just there was something that you said when we were chatting before the show started, and I just want to kind of put it out there, is that not only is it exhausting to have these cortisol levels at a high point all the time, but it also is wearing on your immune system. So like it's actually not, it's not just about how you're feeling and what your body is doing, but it's putting stress on your whole system.
Indeed. And I'm actually going to put a link to a study from the Lancet in chat, which basically talks about the one of the stress hormones we're talking about, cortisol, and how, you know, when you have increased cortisol levels, how this decreases your immune response. And actually they've shown increased mortality with COVID because of all of not just because of, I mean, you know, depending on how people react, how their immune system reacts under stress. So like, you know, it's not what, you know, giving people some tools for their toolkit to deal with stress. I mean, it's not perfect. I get anxiety constantly. There's still, you know, that it's a work in progress, but there are things there, but definitely the cortisol things you're saying, Gillian, it's like, you know, it's it can have negative, like, you know, when that's being secreted constantly, it's I mean, it's good in the short term. It's good in the short term if, you know, that those apocryphal stories you hear about of, you know, the dad lifting the car off the kid, and, you know, like there are times when having the, you know, having all of those stress hormones in your body is there, it's there for a reason. It's, but if that tap is on all the time, it's like, oh my God, is it ever exhausting? It's not sustainable. And like you said, it absolutely has a negative effect on the immune response.
Yeah. So essentially, when, you know, there's something that I've heard about a lot recently, which is people talking about holistic wellness, which is, you know, the whole system and all this kind of stuff. And that's awesome. But for kind of the sake of the discussion today, I think we're going to kind of just split it into physical and mental. And we don't, you know, we need to take care of both, really. Like that's where the kind of the holistic part comes in, is that, you know, really to have a functioning system, you need to have both. And definitely, I think sometimes people put more emphasis on one or the other. But let's just start with some physical things that people can do to kind of feel better. So you were talking about posture, but I know you have a couple of other, you know, trick tips and tricks.
Yes, absolutely. So, I know that we brought up that spine slide, and I didn't really refer to it again after that. But if we could go back to that spine slide again, just for a second. Our bodies move, and Gillian will tell everybody, you know, like we've seen Gillian move, we've seen her dance. We know that the body is capable of moving into many different directions, but do we do that? No, we don't do that. It's like when we're sitting down, we're doing a lot of what is called flexion extension. There's a lot of front back. But if you look at the middle part of the spine, the thoracic spine, it's actually capable of moving into 3 different axes. So we use that part of the spine when we're sitting, we're usually moving forward, backward. But that part, the vertebrae in that part of the spine, they can rotate, which is when you gently twist, and they can move from side to side when you're doing this lateral flexion. And so, first of all, I want to talk about what is good posture, and then we're going to actually maybe do something in terms of how to move that part of the back that's a little different. But I do want to make sure before we end the stream that we're going to do a little meditation together as well. But let's, so Paranor, if we can go to that, the 3rd slide, the one with the ergonomics, the lady in the chair in front of the computer. Yeah, I don't know if, there we go. Awesome. Thank you so much. So, you know, when we look at this, do we actually sit like this in front of the computer? It's like a lot of the times, you know, it's like, okay, when you're sitting, your elbows and knees at 90 degrees, is your sacrum under your head, so your tailbone isn't under your head. So, you know, a lot of the times we're not doing these things. There's a lot of forwardness that happens, which tightens the hip flexors, which pulls on the lower back, and then when your knees are bent, your hamstrings get tight. So let's practice something. All right. So we're sitting in our chairs. Okay, we're all doing this right now. So your feet are flat on the ground. I want you to actually feel what that feels like. And try and see if your knees are bent to 90 degrees approximately. And then I want you to feel how you're feeling on your seat. Like if you rock back and forward a little bit on your bum. And just kind of think about, okay, am I sitting sort of in my center, or am I doing this leaning forward thing, or am I slouching against the backrest of my chair? Let's try and sit up nice and tall. I'm being like your mum right now, okay? Now you're going to pretend there's a string, an invisible string on the top of your head, and that's being pulled up to the sky. So you're sitting nice and tall, but simultaneously you're going to drop your shoulders. Okay, so this is, you know, and be careful of your wrists. Make sure that your elbows are at 90 degrees and that your wrist is a straight line from elbow to knuckle. Okay, so you're not going, when you're using your mouse, try, you know, you're not going to be doing this or this. You're going to try and keep that neutral and try not to deviate your wrist this way or that way. Try and keep it nice and straight. So, okay, so you're nice and neutral. Okay. Now, from here, we're going to do a little breathing, because now that we're sitting up nice and tall, we're not scrunching in our diaphragms. Okay, so when we're sitting and we're leaning forward, that leaves much less room, you know, through the abdominal area. So if we're sitting up nice and tall, we can get more expansion through the ribs. So Gillian, is it okay if I just do a little 3-part breath? Okay. So a diaphragmatic breath, a breath that, so like if you, when we're under a lot of stress, our breathing is affected. We breathe what's called apically, which means we're breathing high in our chest, which is a shallow breath. But we're going to actually get, like, you've got all these little muscles in between your rib cage. Let's move those. Okay, we're going to do a slightly deeper breath. So the 3-part breath is moving your tummy, the sides of the ribs, and the top of the chest, sort of in a flowy sort of movement. We're going to break it down into the 3 and then put it all together. You're going to try to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, and try and take about, you know, 3 seconds for the whole breath, and you can increase that as you go. But we're going to just break it down first. So put your hand on your tummy. Take a deep breath in and out. As you do that, you should feel your tummy go out just a little bit. Now put your hands on the sides of your ribs. Take a deep breath in and out. You want to feel the sides of your ribs kind of flare out a little bit. Let's just do that one more time, because that's, I didn't explain that very well. Take a deep breath in and out. Next breath in, up to the top of your chest. You're going to put your hand on the top of your chest and feel this lift as you breathe in. So take a deep breath in and equally slowly out. Next breath, all 3 things starting with the belly. So you're going to take a deep breath in, belly, sides of the ribs, top of the chest, and out. So it's different to the way you normally breathe, okay? But it's one way to get you off that parasympathetic roller coaster and to the parasympathetic, because when you're under a lot of stress, you're not breathing deeply like this. When you're in a sympathetic state, your blood pressure goes up, your heart rate goes up. How do you get that down? Okay, so we're going to tell the brain we're not under threat right now. How are we doing that? With the deeper breathing. So the breathing exercise, getting the diaphragm to move, is a really important thing to do. Gillian, anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, I think obviously, like, in movement, breathing is, you know, like the most, sometimes the most important thing. Like, I think one of the things I always tell beginning dancers when I'm watching them is, I can tell you're not breathing.
Yeah.
And also, I just want to say that these, like, deep in through the nose, out through the mouth, out through the mouth breaths is generally how I start to put myself to sleep at night.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point too. It's, you know, I mean, like, you know, insomnia is another, you know, symptom of a high, you know, sympathetic state. And so, yeah, if you can start to deepen the breath and slow the heart rate down, it can also tell your body that, okay, it's bedtime. So yeah, that's a great point.
It's part of my, like, I've trained myself how to sleep over the years, and that's one of my, like, the beginning steps is, like, the breath, and then I, you know, have a bunch of visualizations. I basically tell myself mental stories until I sleep.
It's great, and it's like, you know, I think there's some things like these tools we have in our toolkit, and they're there for us, but we just forget about them, or we, you know, we don't know, or it's like, oh yeah, I knew about that, but I just for whatever reason forgot or didn't do it. You know, it's the thing about the deep breathing is you can, you know, start to, expand, build on the breathing by, like I said, I was just using the number 3, but make it 4, make it 5, start to make your, you can treat it as an exercise. You can start to make your breathing a little deeper. The other thing that I want to talk about with the neck and shoulders is how, when we're stressed, how we unconsciously clench. So it's like whether it's the jaw, whether it's the neck and shoulders, whether it's our hands and fists. So, okay, so we're sitting back in that nice tall position. And I'd like you to put your hands behind your back, okay? Because we're so shoulder forward, aren't we, all the time? So we're sitting up nice and tall, and we're just putting our hands behind our back. Now we're just going to very gently tip the head to one side and just do a little stretch through the upper traps. Tight upper traps, symptoms of that, if you get trigger points in here, you can get headaches, you can get, pain, it's hard to move your head. It's a simple thing to deal with. And so, hold it for like, 20, 30 seconds and then come up through the center and then just really gently tilt over to the other side. When you hit that sweet spot, just at that first point of tension, do not overstretch. You're going to hang out there and you're going to wait for that tight feeling to ease. And the thing about stretching is that people usually run through it, but feel free to hang out there and hold stretches for a lot longer than you normally do while you're doing that breathing that I spoke about. So you can start to gently build on that. You stretch all the time, so how does stretching make you feel?
I stretch all the time. Yes, no, I do. And that's actually something that I think a lot of people stretch badly and they end up, getting injured and stuff. And that when I'm teaching people how to stretch, it's like you always stretch with the breath to the point of tension. You take a breath and then you breathe out and you deepen the stretch. And then, like you definitely shouldn't overstretch. But like I'm always, checking in, like I'm rolling my head a lot, and I do cat stretches on the wall all the time, but and I'm always have arms back, so it just reminds me to keep moving.
And yeah, and I don't know about you, but like when I'm in my head, like when I'm having those, when I can't sleep, or if I'm just like everyone's pissing me off, or if I'm just I've got the gerbils on the treadmill out there. Movement really helps with that, like a little stretching, because then I feel like I'm getting it out of my brain, through my body and out, it's kind of one way to kind of process it.
I mean, I have an extreme case of that. That's just like my life and my passion. So it's, that just solves every problem. When I'm moving, a problem is solved.
Yeah. And, it's like, I wish, just a little more movement. I wish everyone could do a little more movement. Now, chat, don't forget you can ask us questions. So if you have anything you want to ask about anything that's going on with you personally, or anything you want to, throw out there, feel free to do that. But I think while people are thinking about that, I actually, if it's okay, I thought what I would do is build on what we started with the sitting properly and the breathing. And I wanted to just go through a little meditation exercise. So what we're going to do is we're just going to sit where we began. So we're going to, again, you're going to sit with your feet flat on the floor. And meditation is one of those things that you can do anywhere. Don't let people tell you have to be sitting in a lotus position or you have to be lying down. You can be on a train or on a plane. Not that we do that stuff much now, but you can be anywhere and doing some meditation. For people who work at computers, I really like sharing this information, because also the other thing that happens is people get a lot of eye strain, just staring at the same focal length all the time. So I really like the idea of giving something for people to do to either, change the focal length of their eyeball and, like look out the window. But with this exercise, we are going to actually close our eyes, okay? You don't have to, I'm just going to suggest it. So I'm going to close my eyes and keep talking. So if anything crazy comes up, just interrupt me, Gillian.
I was gonna close my eyes too, yes. But I'll keep my eyes open.
No, close your eyes. It's fine. It's only going to be for a couple minutes, people. So if this sucks for you, just I'm not going to do it for too long. I just want to give you the basics. Okay. So Feet are flat on the floor. Just rest your hands on your legs or put them someplace comfortable. I want you to think about how you're feeling in this moment. How does it feel with your legs touching the chair? How does it feel with your feet on the floor? How does it feel on your seat? Do you feel a breeze? Do you hear anything going on around you? We're going to think about how we're sitting. We're going to do a little scan through the body. Are your feet touching the floor? Are your knees relaxed? Are your hips and low back relaxed? And they keep moving upwards. Your hands are relaxed on your thighs. They're not scrunched up into balls. Keep going up through your tall spine, dropping the shoulders, unclenching the jaw, lifting up through the top of the head. I want you to think of a word. This word can be anything. This word can be a color. It can be a thing, a plant, an animal. It can be a place. But I want you to pick one thing. Think about this thing. You're going to keep coming back to this thing. The breathing we spoke about, you're going to be doing that right now. You're going to breathe deeply and you're going to think about that thing. Your brain is going to say, oh, but I'm going to make this list and I've got to do this thing later and I'm going to go shopping, and it's going to try and take you away from what that thing is that you're thinking about. Like an errant puppy on a leash, you're going to draw your thoughts back to that thing that you're thinking about. Bring it back. Are you still thinking about that thing? Take a deep breath. And out. I'm just going to sit in silence for a few seconds, but you're going to keep thinking about that thing. And as you think about it, if you start to think about other things, just draw your thoughts back to that thing. To come out of this, we're going to slowly start to squeeze and relax the fingers. Start to deepen your breath a little bit more. Put your hands together and rub your palms together. Rub them and generate a little bit of heat. And put the heels of your hand over your eyes. Create a little soothing darkness here. Now you're going to stretch up to the sky, reach up to the sky, stretch, take a deep breath, and out. Open your eyes when you're ready. So that's just a quickie 3-minute meditation. The things to remember about it is being comfortable, breathing, finding that word and coming back to that word. I use a word that has meaning for me, a word that makes me happy, but you can use whichever word you want. And it's just like, meditation, posture, breathing, sleep, exercise, all of these things can help to reduce the stress hormones in your body, get your body to start to secrete endorphins or happy hormones to start to bring you, down from that. So the other thing I was going to just mention, and I was talking to Parano about this before we began, was that if you do nothing else, but, nerds know they have to have their towels, okay? So the other thing you can do if you want is just keep your towel handy. When my back is feeling tight, what I will do is take a towel and I just roll it up into a tubey shape. And then I will lie down with this thing along my back. and I will lie on the floor or on my bed or my mat, and I will just lie with my palms up to the sky, and sometimes I will feel things kind of crack or set a little bit. If you don't have a bolster or a foam roller or anything like that, just use your towel, and you can use it to help you stretch. You can use it to help you with your posture. It's basically what I'm trying to say is I want your body to go into the opposite position that it's in most of the time. So, so if you're going forward and your spine is rounding, then I want you to try and put yourself in the opposite position. If you're sitting for a long time, get up and walk around. So a lot of these things are not hard. The hard part is just remembering to do it.
Yeah, and I think that's for because obviously this is my work, and it's vital that systems are go, otherwise I can't do my work. So I build it into my routine. But I think that the routine is something that's very that's just really important to have, is that even if it's like these little things, like for example, for the last few months, the first thing I do when I get up in the morning is have a glass of lemon water. And it's just like a teeny tiny thing, but like now I don't like, I miss it if I don't have it. It's part of the routine. I've done it enough that like I know it's there and my body's expecting it, and it helps me wake up, it helps me feel fresh. And so that those like sometimes it's not about like overhauling your entire existence and changing routine and going to the gym and doing all this stuff, but like these like small little things, 3-minute meditations or just a little bit of stretching, like that actually can make a huge difference. Like you don't need to reinvent your entire world to be well.
Yeah, indeed. And the routine thing, I couldn't agree more. It's like, if you have just little things that establish some kind of routine, it can really help you with feeling better. Like take sleep, for example. All of the times our sleep, is gone out the window. But if you start to, even if it really hurts to get up early, if you start to get up at the same time and go to bed at the same time, like, like if you can start to establish some kind of routine, like, okay, I'm going to go to bed at a reasonable time. I'm going to get up at a certain time, even if I'm at home and I have to set my stupid alarm clock. I'm going to get up. I'm going to shower. I'm going to try and get a little fresh air. I'm going to, drink the thing that, that is part of my routine. I'm going to, like all of these things that we can do that establish a good routine, I think, yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's so important.
Yeah. Cool. Listen, chat, send us your questions if you have them. We'll just kind of, go through some last ideas. Adam altogether was asking opinions on ASMR streams. I have no opinions because I don't exactly know what they are and I don't really watch them, so I don't have an opinion. Do you have anything to say on that, Katrina?
What is an ASMR stream? So I guess Adam, more words, as Pamela would say.
I think those are the streams with like the sounds, like where people are like eating or something.
Oh yeah. I actually saw this talked about on another stream. I'm not sure if it's appropriate to mention here, but there's actually been quite a bit of research. Right. Okay. Yeah, so there has been some research out there about that, and a lot of people, I don't know enough about it to comment.
Likewise. Likewise.
But it's like, whatever works, right? It's like if you do it and, like do your research, look into it, see what
Yeah,
we're saying there. But yeah, no, it's I have to say I unfortunately have to do some more reading about that because I am not really sure.
yeah.
But
I mean, I definitely, the one thing I wanted to note from the meditation stuff is that I started really actually practicing meditation a couple of years ago. And I just want to point out that word, like practice, like, at the beginning, like mindfulness is actually a skill. It's not something you just like have a talent for or whatever. Like it's actually something you practice and you get better at. And so, the idea, I've talked to a lot of people who are like, I can't meditate, or I don't like it, or I always fall asleep, or all this stuff, it somehow it's like, you either go into this state for, an hour and you have these revelations or whatever. But it's for me, it's just about that, just concentrating on the breath, just coming into a state of like being present, aware, checking in with what's around, like that. Sometimes that's all you need to just like reset.
Exactly. And I think people give up on it a bit too quickly. They try it, it doesn't work, so that's it. I tried it. And it's like that with so many things. Like, with so many people I know who did yoga once and they didn't get better, and so it's a failure. It's like, no, you have to stick with it. It's not a, people, especially nerds will, think of it as being a very, Vulcan thing or something, like, they sort of associate all of these things, and it's like, no, it's just, you're not going to be doing telekinesis or anything, but you can slowly, it's like any other exercise. If you're building muscle, Arnold Schwarzenegger did not look like that in a day. It took him a lot of hard work. It's like that with the brain. You kind of like, it takes time and training and effort to so don't give up, but realize you can start small. It's not to sound too cliche, but the longest journey starts with the first step, and so on. It's like, you can make a difference, even if it's just a small difference, and every little bit counts.
Definitely, definitely. Um, yeah, I mean, I think as with any topic and with any time I get on the stream, like we could talk about this for hours. We haven't even talked about diet, which is something that I really pay attention to, and even more of the stretching and stuff. But I think what we have is a really good base, and folks have some practical exercises that they can do to just come back from whatever anxious scenario they've gone into. Just kind of come back to the present.
Yeah,
um,
and I absolutely. And one last thing I want to say to people is, please be gentle on yourself. Okay, please be a little kind to yourself. Don't put the pressure on yourself to say that everything has to change straight away. And just be be kind to other people, but be kind to yourself, because that's really important. And before you wrap up, I just wanted to end with what I started. I wanted to come back to this 1 to 10 thing. So at the beginning of the stream, I asked you to kind of say to yourself, how you were feeling from 1 to 10, where 1 is really crappy and 10 is really amazing. And I want you to sort of think about what that number is now. So if the stretching, if the small meditation, if that changed that number at all, and if that number went up even just a tiny bit, then this is maybe stuff that you can explore more on your own. You might be, I think everyone should do this to a certain degree, but whether it's gentle stretching, whether it's a bit of meditation, whether it's movement is so important. Getting, eating well, getting enough sleep, all that stuff. But if you didn't want to out yourself about anything in the chat today, please send me a whisper, or DM me in the Discord or whatever. I will help you as much as I can, so you can always get in touch with me later.
yes, and I think probably Broken Symmetry's question that just came in is probably good for a DM or a longer chat. He's asking about strengthening and healing joint areas where the muscle attaches to bone, which I think might be a longer answer.
Sure, yeah, and I definitely have ideas about that Broken Symmetry. So I will, get in touch with me on the Discord if you can, because I have thoughts.
I would just like to wrap up and say that one of the techniques that I use that has perhaps been the most useful for me across the years is to expand and contract my world, like the bubble of the universe that I inhabit. Because I often find that the bigger it gets, then the more overwhelmed and upset I am. And so I try to just, as a practice, to reduce the world around me. You know, sometimes that's ignoring the news, sometimes that's whatever it is, just how I choose to focus. Because when the world is smaller, then little things make really big differences. Like having a good cup of coffee in the morning suddenly becomes the key to like an amazing day, or just like finding something that you lost, or, you know, reading a good book or whatever it is. Like these little tiny simple things suddenly become enormously significant in changing your day when your world is small.
Haven't you noticed that too? That, I mean, based on what you just said, it's like I totally get that, because it's like I will see a bee on a flower. Like in the past, I would have just seen a bee on a flower and said, "Oh, look, it's a bee on a flower." And now I sit there and I stare at it for like 20 minutes.
Right.
And I'm like, what is this little dude doing? And now he's got pollen on his little furry legs. And, you know, like, I mean, you start to kind of like, you know, like that world, you know, like when you make the world smaller, you notice things more.
Yeah. 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 And sometimes it just allows, because like when the world is this big, I just can't deal with it. But when it's this big, like I can handle that, you know, like, so that's something that I do intentionally, and I have for a while. Anyway, it is, I don't know, it's 15 past the hour. I can't even say the hour because I don't know which it is for you guys. But we're going to wrap this stream up. This was wonderful. Thank you so much for the idea, for joining, and for being here, Katrina. It was awesome.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. And thank you for having me join.
Yes. So, guys, this has been Community Coffee. And this is, again, Community Coffee these days is mostly just me and Annie and Pamela, but it is meant to be for the community, by the community. And so if you have ideas or things you want to share, stuff you want to talk about, get involved in the Discord, and you can do this too. We have great producers, so all you need to do, like us, is set on a Zoom call and talk at your camera. We will be back streaming. Well, I won't be, but somebody will be back streaming in an hour and 45 minutes with the Daily Space, which is our mostly daily science roundup, news roundup. And so make sure that you come back to that. And follow all the links that are coming up in the chat for ways that you can get involved and support CosmoQuest, which is an amazingly wonderful organization. And we're happy to be part of it and part of the community. Come hang out with us on Discord. You can feel free to get in touch with me or Astrowise about any questions you have about the stuff on the show and beyond, in terms of, you know, physical and mental wellness. So thank you everybody for being here, and see you soon. Bye-bye.